Hey, once again, welcome to the Utah High School Hoops podcast. I get to be the dumbest person on this call, which is going to be fantastic. I'm also the dumbest person when it comes to basketball. Maybe not the dumbest, but in my family, there's a clear pecking order on people who know about basketball. And so I'm going to be joined by Kristen Peak, who is an NBA draft analyst for Yahoo Sports. And she's going to be breaking down some of the players, what we can expect from Hoopfest coming to Utah this coming next week, next week, whenever it is, it's going to be happening. This is the Utah High School Hoops podcast, your source for sometimes informative, but always entertaining coverage of the Utah High School Hoops scene with your host, Adam Peak. Was that all right, Chris? Was that
sometimes informative?
Sometimes
yes.
Informative. I just figure I got to keep it real.
Yes.
Now, there's also another peak that's involved in this, which is AJ actually made the beat, the little intro beat for the podcast. So that was kind of fun. We're keeping it all in the family. If you don't know, the Peak family, we're not really a basketball family. There's just a few of us that really like basketball. Is that fair to say? Like nobody. We should really get Lisa on though.
Yeah. Well, I'm bringing Lisa to the draft. Finally.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait for that.
Man on the street action with my twin sister who knows absolutely nothing about about basketball. It'll be amazing.
You have to. You're like, this is Terrence Ross. She's like Ross from Friends. That's exactly. Everything's got to be a Friends reference, I feel like.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, if you're watching live, thank you. We're live on the YouTubes and on Twitter. I've not decided to call it anything else other than Twitter. And I am in the tiniest hotel room ever. And I'm in Washington, D.C., and it's a small room. I did go to the Wizards play-in game last night. That was kind of fun. Watched, you know what's crazy, Chris? I was thinking about this because I'm here with Ari, and the last time when I was out in Brooklyn with Shea, we went to the Nets Wizards game. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. I've seen the Wizards play a couple of times. Remember we sat with, was it Will Barton's agent or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I'm really sorry you've had to watch the Wizards twice. I mean, and for a team that is probably going to get the #1 pick in the dead center draft, in between Victor Wembanyama and Cooper Flagg, and they're going to probably have the #1 pick, flip a coin between Alex Sarr and Isaiah Collier. Like, sorry, Wizards fans. Sorry, you're late and a year too early.
Well, you know, they've been struggling for a while, so maybe they'll go back to back. So, Kristen, in case anybody doesn't, here's the deal. I'm just going to put this out there right now. If you are listening to this podcast and for some weird reason, you know me and associate me with basketball in Utah and you don't know Kristen Peak, then that's tough for you because you're missing out on a whole treasure trove of information. So Kristen, why don't you introduce yourself to all of the listeners, all of the Utah basketball listeners? You're part of the Utah basketball community, though.
That is correct. I'm Kristen Peak. I'm the NBA draft analyst for Yahoo Sports. I also cover prospects starting at the high school level and AAU level, all the top players in the country from the time they're 15 all the way to their rookie year in the NBA. And I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. So I'm a little bit of a veteran in the space, which is kind of weird to say because it still feels like I'm learning so much. And I love, you know this, Adam, like I love my job. I love getting to know these kids, these players at a young age. And then it's like graduation. I'm a proud auntie when I finally see them realize their dreams.
It's a fun moment. So I got to go out to, I think it's just one draft, right? I think it was the 2016 draft with Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, which was a sad draft for me because you were telling me, I will say this, you are routinely up there in terms of the people who are the most accurate in your mock drafts. So everyone follow Kristen's mock drafts on Yahoo Sports. But you were telling me before, because I've got my Nuggets hat on, I'm a huge Denver Nuggets fan, and you were like, hey, there's this kid from Louisville named Donovan Mitchell who I think is going to fall to the Nuggets. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. So I was sitting there with some friends. I'm like, no, everyone turn off. Woj at the time still worked for Yahoo. I'm like, everyone turn it all off. I don't want to hear. And they say the Denver Nuggets draft Donovan Mitchell. And I was like, yeah. I was the only Nuggets fan. Literally, I bought a hat there.
Yes.
And I said, has anyone else bought a Nuggets hat? They were like, no. So at that draft, they said, hey, he actually got traded. I was like, who? Like the Jazz. I was like, no, we do this all the time. But what was cool about being at that draft was seeing the interaction that you have with these players when they finally get drafted. Because there's just this like groundswell of media that's around them not really all of a sudden, but kind of all of a sudden. NBA
it's a
media,
car wash, yeah.
And it's like they see you and they're just like a familiar face because you, like you said, you've been with these kids since they were, 14, 15 years old.
I mean, I've had this past draft, Jet Howard damn near like cried in my arms, and like Derek Lively gave me the biggest hug in the world. And I said, listen, Mark Cuban called me 30 minutes before the draft. I don't make me look bad,
and he's not. He's playing. He's balling out.
He's playing. He fits right in. He's their missing piece. He's doing everything right. But he gave me like the biggest hug. Peyton Watson, who I know you're a fan of from the Denver Nuggets, it was the year before him getting drafted at 30. Like it's just, you have to understand there's so much pressure on these players leading into the draft. And so to finally find out where their home is going to be, who they're going to be with, teammates, city, system, it's just this relief of, okay, I can breathe now. I now know where I'm going to be. I mean, so it's just a very emotional night. I'm so just honored and happy to be a part of it, especially being in these kids' lives for so long. And yeah, it's fun. It's a fun night.
I love it. So it was one of my. I remember the night before the draft, me and you hung out with. It was like Woj, Bobby Marks, Tom Crean there.
Tom Crean was there. Yep.
And there was one other person. I have to look at
it was either Gavoni. Was Gavoni there or Schmitz? I can't remember if they were there.
It was I think it was Mike Schmitz.
Yeah.
And we just talked basketball for like 4 hours. I'm like, am I in heaven? Have I made it? It was really incredible. So what's been really cool, like there's a lot of really terrible stuff that happened because of COVID. Obviously, it was a terrible pandemic. One of the things that happened was during COVID, Utah was one of the few states, especially out west, that was allowing basketball to happen. And is, I would say a small reason why you were even in Utah for the start of COVID, not even thinking about living there, but you just came and, stayed with us because LA was shut down and there was basketball happening in St. George and Utah. And what's been cool is these events have continued to happen. So I remember, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, we went out. It was 2 years ago, I think, when Jaden Hardy was here.
Yeah.
And the kid that went to
Frankie Collins.
Frankie Collins, yeah.
He's now at Arizona State. Yep.
Yeah. So that was incredible. And then, we saw Anthony Black as well when Duncan
Paolo Banchero.
Oh yeah, Paolo was here, and
Amari
Bailey was here.
Bronny was here. Yep.
Yeah, it's just been awesome. And so this year we've got we've got Hoopfest Utah. It starts on Monday the 20th. So if you're listening to this after Monday the 20th or the 21st or the 22nd, then you're listening to a great podcast, but you have missed the players. So tough break. So on Monday, I think it's a pretty stacked lineup in terms of people who are going to be coming to our state. And what's cool is they're playing, not exclusively playing only teams from Utah, but a lot of them are playing teams from Utah. And it's a nice benchmark, I think, for a public high school from Utah to be able to, like, Lone Peak or Alta is going to play Sunrise Christian or Chicago Simeon. These are really great opportunities for this state that's kind of, the reason I started this because there's so many people who are just like, Utah's always overlooked and blah, blah, all this stuff. It's like, well, now you're on ESPN. So, and you get to play against some of the, like, you're going to have film to send to college coaches when you went up against, against Sunrise Christian. So we almost can't really complain as much anymore because we're getting attention now in the state. So I thought it would be cool because, I know a little bit about the Utah stuff, and I'm gonna do a couple of podcasts at the event. I'll look at our number one commenter, Kristen. I only have one person who ever comments, and it's not Lydia Peak. It is Kev, Isaiah Drisdom's mom, coming in with the comments. She's the best. You must get alerts or something when this goes live on YouTube. So I thought it would be cool because you've been covering a lot of these kids and a lot of these teams for a while. To talk about some of the players that we should be on the lookout for. I think that most people probably know who Cooper Flagg is, and if you don't, then you should. Like you mentioned, he's the everyone believes he will be the number one pick in 2 years. So he's going to Duke. That's about all I know about him. And he played for his mom, which is a cool story. So we could maybe start there because I don't know if you remember. You told me a really fun story about seeing Cooper at EYBL.
Yep.
And you were like, "There's nobody in this gym."
Yeah, it was
some random team from Maine.
It was 15U. It was EYBL session 1 about almost 3 years now. And I was sick of watching the 17U games. Like, I didn't need to see more of DJ Wagner. I didn't need to see Justin Edwards. So I went and decided to watch some of the younger kids, 15U. And really who I was going to see, I had been asked by Jermaine O'Neal to come watch his son. And so I went down there and I was like, okay. And then I looked to my left and there's Maine United. And I was like, who's this 6'9" kid? Like, I'm going to watch him. And then catty corner to him, the Boozer twins were playing, Cam and Caden Boozer. And I just stood in the middle and I watched both of them. I was the only person there. And within about 5 minutes on the court, Cooper had 2 blocks. He had an alley-oop. He had a step back 3 and a steal in transition for like this dime of a pass. And I instantly called John Shire. And he's just like, okay, I'm sending Emil Jefferson, who's now I'm an assistant coach with the Boston Celtics. He's like, I'm sending Emil. Can you help him point out who these 2 players are? I was like, yeah, no problem. And then I saw Scott Drew and he was getting like coffee. I was like, I don't care about your coffee. Come watch this kid, Cooper Flagg. And he goes, who? And I said, no, he plays 15U. He's like, 15U? It's a bit early. I was like, no, I'm telling you, him and this other kid, Cameron Boozer, are the 2 best players in the EYBL, and they're 15U. And within the next game, it was Jay Lucas, who's now at Duke, but at the time was a Kentucky assistant. It was John Shire and Emil Jefferson, Scott Drew. Who else was there? I mean, there were like 6 or 7 coaches, and I was just like, good for me. Look what I did. Like, I got the word out. Louisville was there with Nolan Smith was there.
Smith, yeah.
And he said to me, he's like, KP. So he was trying to like in his mind make sense. He's like, so if Shire takes the Boozer twins, because remember, up until this past summer, Cooper Flagg and Cameron Boozer were in the 2025 class. So he's like, if Shire takes the Boozer twins, you think I have a shot at Cooper Flagg and his brother? And I just said, well, I'll tell you what. I went up to Cooper after his one game. I met his mom, Kelly, his dad, Ralph. And I was like, listen, you are going to be a top player in high school basketball. I hope, get ready. Buckle up. It's going to be a ride. What are your dream schools? And he told me Duke, Michigan State, and Kentucky. And I said, say less. Let me put the word out. And he ended up at Duke. He chose them over UConn. He also had a visit scheduled to Kansas, but canceled that at the last minute and just decided to keep it between the 2 of them, and ultimately ended up at Duke with a monster recruiting class, by the way. Shire getting it done. So they're going to be definitely a team to watch, and somebody that a lot of NBA scouts and executives will be watching closely next year.
Did you ever watch John Shire play at Duke?
I'm sure I did, but nothing.
He was a gunner. He was just a lights out shooter, that guy.
Well, I told you what he said to me, Adam, when at the Jazz media practice, when the media day where they ran us through drills and everything. And I posted this video of me coming down off a pin screen, and I dribbled with I was on the the right hand side, and instead of dribbling with my inside hand, I dribbled with my right hand before I got the shot up. Shire sent me a text. He's like, "Dribble with your inside hand," and I was like, "Okay, yeah, not
Always,
no, doesn't matter. I made the shot, but cool, yes,
always coaching. I mean,
yes."
I was hoping that Cooper would have gone to Michigan State to major in packaging engineering because I have a feeling if this basketball thing doesn't work out, he may want to get into the packaging industry. That's
Do you know what's something that a lot of people don't know that his mom told me? He is a very good golfer.
oh,
Who knew, right?
so we can expect the Steph Curry Cooper Flag Pro Am competition as well. That'll be fun.
That will be a lot of fun. Yes.
Well, okay. So Cooper Flag is he's incredible. What is he? 6'9",
Listen, this is
6'10"
this
now.
is this is what I'll say to everybody in the state of Utah. If you're planning on going to this thing, try to go to as many Mount Verde games as possible. That's all I'll say. It's worth your money, it's worth your time, it's worth everything, because what this Mount Verde team is capable of doing this year is historic in terms of being one of the top high school teams to ever exist with the amount of talent they have. And it's not just Cooper, who is the projected number 1 pick. It's Asa Newell, who decided to stay close to home and go to Georgia and play with his brother. I think his brother's name is Jaden. He chose them over Alabama, Gonzaga, and Texas. 6'10", just like Cooper, kind of versatile forward. He's a projected lottery pick in 2 years as well. Then you got 5-star guard Rob Wright, who just dishes out dimes. I think he had like 10 or more assists in the games that I saw at the Border League. Liam McNeely, 5-star Indiana commit. Derek Queen, 5-star forward, playing alongside Cooper and Asa in the front court. He's taken visits to Houston, Indiana, Kansas, and Maryland, and many think that it's a two-way race between Indiana and Maryland. And then coming off the bench, you have LSU commit Curtis Givens and one of the top sophomores in the country, Caleb Gaskins. He's top 5, who already has early offers from Baylor, Florida State, and Georgia. So it is going to be a show no matter when they're playing. Make time for them. They just beat their last opponent 118-28.
Jeez,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So Montverde takes on. Now we claim Wasatch Academy in Utah because the school is physically in Utah, but we know that Wasatch is recruiting, globally, right? I mean, they get kids in from all over. Obviously they've got
Isaiah Harwell
from Pocatello, Idaho. So he's kind of within this region, but I know that Wasatch has I think Malik Diallo is there. He committed to TCU. And
Yeah.
that game is at 8:00 on Monday night. It's going to be on ESPN. If for some reason you can't get down to Pleasant Grove, it's very pleasant, is what I've heard. If you can't make it down there, then you can watch it on ESPN. You can TiVo it. Has anyone said TiVo in a while? I don't, probably not. Okay, you can you can obviously record it and watch it. But I hope that there's some competitive games, or at least there's going to be some entertainment either way, right? So you've got Montverde against Wasatch, and then Montverde takes on American Fork on Tuesday night. So if you are a Utah basketball purist and you're like, oh yeah, well, Wasatch, if you want to watch one of arguably the best high school basketball team ever assembled take on the Cavemen and see how we stack up here, it's a great chance to go do that in Pleasant Grove. So that's going to be on Tuesday the 21st at 6 p.m. So that's when Montverde's playing. And I mean, so put this in perspective. On Montverde, would you expect, are you talking like the top, like if they have 12 kids, like they're all going to be D1 players, this is for the most part, is that who's on this? I mean, obviously you rattled off like 7 who are at like high major, even like some projected lottery picks. But are we looking at a team that we're going to look back on and go, oh my gosh, even their 12th guy was averaging, 20 by the time he was a junior in college?
I'll tell you this, Caleb Gaskins, who I told you is the top 5 player in the sophomore class, he is probably their 8th or 9th rotational player, if that says anything about the talent that they have. And, Cooper's twin brother, Ace Flag, who has offers from West Virginia,
He had
Maine
some
and
good
Boston
EYBL
College.
games too, didn't he?
He did,
For
yeah, Peach Jam for sure. But I don't even know, like he's been playing more on the graduate team, so he can get reps and actually get some playing time. But he might be making the trip out as well to Utah. And he barely sees any minutes. So yes, their team is stacked. It's loaded. I don't expect anyone to get in within 30 to 40 points of them
okay.
the entire season.
The whole season. You're not even talking about it. Like this weekend might be like 40. If you're like within 40, it was like you played really well actually.
Yeah, I told you the one matchup that everyone is kind of circling on their calendar for Mount Verde is December 1st when they play Christopher Columbus out of Miami, and that team is loaded with Cameron Boozer, Caden Boozer, so that's Carlos Boozer's twin sons. Cameron is one of the top players in the junior class, and then you've got Jace Richardson, who's going to Michigan State, and his younger brother Jackson Richardson, the boys of Jason Richardson, who won a championship with the Warriors, right? And also, no, he won a championship in Michigan State, and he played for the Warriors.
I was like,
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
championship Warriors teams, but
No,
yeah.
right.
Also, I believe he won a dunk contest. Jason
He
Richardson did.
absolutely did.
He's
And
an athlete.
he can still like get up and down the floor. It's very impressive. He plays in that Big Three tournament
Oh,
with
that's awesome.
the IQ. Yeah. He still gets that. And then like sometimes I see Ball is Life videos pop up of like runs in Las Vegas that he was just killing people. I mean, he's great. You know me.
Yeah, it's like him
I
and
love the family.
him and Mahmoud Abdul Rauf and Katino Mobley and like Jamal Crawford are these just like older basketball players that can still just go out and get buckets.
Yes.
But we can actually not talk about the old basketball players because I could start like the old
Right.
basketball podcast where we just talk about old guys because I'm an old guy. It's weird being the same age as old people, and that's what I am. But I was curious about so we've got a bunch of teams, right? So the first game on the 20th, we've got Sunrise Christian is going to play Alta. And we actually covered Alta on a previous episode talking about some of the guys that they have there. They've got a Utah commit who is fresh off of the prospects run where they won 3 SSB. And so, it's a good team. But I know that Sunrise Christian has historically had a ton of talent. So who can we expect to see on Sunrise Christian?
I mean, this is a fairly new Sunrise team. Last year they had Mikal Brown Jr., who left Sunrise to go to Overtime Elite. He's one of the top junior guards in the country. So really, they're giving the keys to the car to a guard, David Castillo, who was at USA Basketball. He's been there for tryouts and for most recently the training camp. Senior combo guard. He is just one of those players. He's really tough, is excellent at creating separation off the dribble. Isn't committed, or no, he is. He's committed to Kansas State, and he chose them over Kansas, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, and Florida. And so he's definitely the one to watch and is someone that can really, really hurt Alta in this game. But in terms of, experience on the court from Sunrise, I think it's a winnable game for them, like you said, because they have the experience from 3SSB and they have some high major players, or at least players that are ranked. And so that is definitely a winnable game, and it should be fairly competitive, to start out this little, is it a tournament or is it just a showcase? It's just a showcase, right?
Yeah, it's just a showcase. And we've got so Lone Peak, who we talked about as a dark horse, a dark horse that can make a run and maybe win a state title. Here in Utah, is taking on Chicago Simeon. And so I didn't see, so I just went off of the, what's it called? The Naismith watch list to see if I could, try to sound moderately smart, when I was talking to you. So thank you, Naismith. And I don't believe I saw any one player on here from Chicago Simeon. So is this a team? Let me just, do one quick look. There's a lot of players from Montverde and a lot of players from Prolific Prep, who, by the way, just played Utah Prep, and it was a good competitive game. I watched that the other night. Prolific Prep did, not Montverde. Yeah, so I don't see any one player on this list. So is this just like a gritty team that loves to get out and travel, and they're like, it doesn't matter, we're going to roll the ball out and we're going to go battle with anybody?
Exactly. I mean, I see Simeon everywhere. Like they're at Hoop Hall West, which is usually a very big event. I've seen them at the actual Hoop Hall tournament in January, which is out in Springfield, Massachusetts, and that event is always loaded. And Simeon is just, I always just see the coaches in the lobby. I'm like, man, you guys are back. Like this is great. But you're right. There's just this gritty team. They have a history. They have, alumni from there. Is Derrick Rose played there? Jabari Parker played there. I actually went out to Jabari Parker's announcement ceremony when he announced in front of the whole school, and that was an experience of its own. But they're a gritty team. They're very tough. They're very quick. So there's a lot of toughness to them. So any team, Lone Peak, whoever else is playing them, is gonna have to know that they're gonna pick them up full court. They're gonna be on them trapping. Their defense is where they get out and run, and they look to get out in transition as much as possible and push the ball up the back.
Got it. And how about how's Link Academy looking this year? I know we had Jordan Ross there, local Utah kid, actually from Pleasant Grove. But what can you tell me about Link Academy?
Link,
Anybody there that we should be watching out for?
yep. They have two players. One of them is a top 3 senior in the country, Trey Johnson, who just committed to Texas. It was a monster get for Texas. Good pickup for Rodney Terry after losing AJ Johnson to the NBL over in Australia and Ron Holland to the G League Ignite to actually come back and get a top 3 player in the senior class.
By the way, you just saw him play. You were just there.
I
You're
well,
all
I
over
just
the place.
I just saw both of them play. I saw Ron get smacked by the Salt Lake Stars. The G League Ignite lost by 59, and I had landed the day before from Australia and I went over to see AJ Johnson, who's right now playing with the Illawarra Hawks, who is the team is being coached by Jason Tatum's dad, Justin. Fun little fact. So it's Trey Johnson, 6'7" combo guard, do everything, score at all 3 levels. Just a high level player. It's the reason why he's the number 3 player in the senior class. And Jasper Johnson, who's a 5-star guard, top 10 player in the junior class, 6'4", shifty. He has offers from Kansas, Baylor, West Virginia, and Missouri.
Got it. Okay, let's see here. Who else do we have on here? There were some teams I didn't recognize. Rock Creek and Wheeler and
Orangeville Prep.
Yeah.
Orangeville Prep is out of Canada. I tried to glance at their roster a little bit. I'm gonna have to familiarize myself with them before December because I'm actually going to be calling 2 of their games on NBA TV in an event. So I'm bummed I won't be here to watch them play in person. But AZ Compass is probably another team.
Yeah, they were the next one.
Yeah, the head coach Pete Caffey, who's been in the game as long as I have. I mean, I've known Pete was one of the first coaches that I ever met. But Adam, are you ready? Are you ready for probably your favorite player?
Let's hear it.
Week? So his name is Victorious Miller. He is the nephew of Master P.
Yep, Percy Miller.
Yep. And the son of Silk the Shocker.
So, funny story. It's my time to tell stories now. You may not know this story, KP. But one time in my life, I got to be a ball boy for the Denver Nuggets. And it was a preseason game. This was not when I was a kid. This is a preseason game when I was in college. And my friend ran the ball boy crew. And so he said, hey, we need someone. Can you come down from Fort Collins? We went to the Air Force Academy for a preseason game. And it was against the Raptors. And they had Master P was on the Raptors preseason. Like Master P could hoop. He was a really good player. Really good. It wasn't like he was just a rapper, a rapper who could play. He was a good player. And Silk the Shocker was actually in the audience. And so I got to meet both of them, which is pretty cool.
No, when I interviewed Victorious, we call him VJ. That's how you'd say his name. but when I interviewed Victorious last year, his dad came in the room when I did the interview. So I always like to introduce myself to the parents. And so I was like, "Hi, I'm Kristen Peak with Yahoo Sports." And he's like, "Oh, so Sean, my name's Sean," which I thought was funny.
That's awesome. Okay. So we
Yeah,
have Victorious Miller from AZ
yep,
Compass.
yep. He just committed to Oregon 2 days ago. Was a big time pickup for the Oregon Ducks. I mean, I want to say he was leaning towards USC, UCLA, and Arizona. So heavy Pac-12 interest. Then you got Jeremiah Fears. He's the younger brother of current Michigan State guard Jeremy Fears, and he's a junior. He's got a ton of offers as well, including Michigan State. Ethan Lathan, Lathan. He's 6'10". He's a 3-star center signed to Old Dominion. And Amani Wooten is a sophomore. He's a 4-star wing. And he has offers from ASU, Auburn, Georgia Tech, and Mississippi State. So a lot of talent at AZ Compass. The problem is there's a lot of first-year players. So when I saw them in Vegas, they were still trying to figure out how to play with one another.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why these tournaments are fun, because you get these contrasting styles. So or tournament or showcase, right? So I remember when I went out and watched Duncanville, I think they played Lehigh, and Duncanville had obviously, Anthony Black, who ends up
Ron Holland was on that team too.
Oh, he was?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. Okay, so you got these perennial NBA players playing against a Utah County team in Lehigh, and that game, it was a close game. Because Lehigh is, in a lot of these schools here in Utah, you get a bunch of kids who have played together since 4th or 5th grade. And it's the funny thing about basketball. Obviously, talent for the most part wins out, and Duncanville won that game. But if you have cohesion on both the offensive and defensive end, you can create some problems for teams who haven't really played that much together, and can make some games interesting, and maybe even get a couple of upsets every now and again. So yeah, I mean, I think we've got, so AZ Compass is going to be playing on Tuesday at 8:00. They're playing Link Academy, and then they play Sunrise Christian at 11:30 on Wednesday. So those should be some fun games. I know I'm really excited for there was another team on here that it just says CIA. And I was like, that certainly is probably not the Central Intelligence Agency. They play Link Academy on Monday. And for some of the Utah teams, like I said, you've got American Fork is playing Montverde. Who else did I see on here that I was?
You said Lone Peak, Alta.
Oh yeah, Lone Peak plays Chicago Simeon, and Sunrise Christian plays Alta. So those are kind of the big games. There's other Utah teams in here. Some of the Utah teams are playing one another, and don't get me wrong, there'll be great games. Corner Canyon versus Orem,
yeah.
Alta versus American Fork. I was actually surprised that Corner Canyon plays Wheeler on Tuesday. So that would be the only like non-Utah team that they play. Anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to go check out some of the games on Monday. Judge plays Monday night, so it's like, who would you rather see, Cooper Flagg or your son? It's like, sorry, I'm going to go watch my son play basketball, right? It's their first game for Judge. Not everybody's going to make that decision, I understand, but if you can get out there and check it out, and then Tuesday the games will be pretty solid as well. I'm looking forward to it. And that's kind of all I had. Little sister. Can I call you little sister?
You can call me little sister. It's fine. That you're not wrong. I am your younger sibling.
It's true. But you've really accomplished a lot, obviously, in the basketball world. It's pretty crazy to think that I think this is still true, right? You are still the only female NBA draft analyst ever, right? For any of the major sports outlets.
That is correct. And I am dropping my first mock draft of the college basketball season on Monday. So that'll be exciting. Isaiah Collier getting that #1 spot.
Oh, you heard it here first. everybody. The pre-mock draft from KP on. We only bring you the latest breaking news here on the Utah High School. Oops. Oh, what am I doing? But I've made a podcast, so this may be the only one that you come on, because God only knows how long this thing will last. But if it does, obviously we'll have you come back on. We've got some really cool things that are happening. Everyone go follow. I tell anyone who's in basketball. I remember when I introduced you to Casey Stanley up at LCA, and he was like, "You should have led with this is your sister." Like, why do we? So I'm like, if you're really into basketball, you should really go follow my sister Kristen. So everyone go follow her on Instagram. Go follow her on. If you want to follow her on Instagram, you're gonna see a lot of videos for dog Gary, which is is Gary gonna make an appearance, by the way?
He's laying down right now. I can grab him. But Gary is like more popular than I am. Like every time I show up to a game, if I'm talking to a player, instantly they'll be like, "Oh, hey KP, where's Gary? How's Gary? Why didn't you bring him? When are you gonna bring Gary on the road?" I'm like, what about me? How about, hey KP, how are you? How's it going?
I mean, Gary, you do put up some pretty fantastic videos of Gary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's great. And if you're wondering, when you see videos or tweets from KP on the road, just know that it's my time to hang out with Gary, and I am the chosen one, because Gary comes in. Gary is actually our dog's puppy. And now, because of Gary, there are other people in the NBA who have puppies from our dog.
It's true. Yeah.
Just because they're like, "Oh, Gary looks great." He's a pretty solid dog. Well, yeah. So everyone go follow. What are the social things? By the way, like I said, if people aren't following you already and they're watching this, then they're a little silly. I wouldn't say dumb, but a little silly. So how would people go connect up and follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Kristen Peak, on Instagram, same thing at Kristen Peak, and you can read all my stuff on Yahoo Sports. Like I said, I have a mock draft dropping Monday, and I head to Hawaii tomorrow for the Maui Invitational. So I will not be in Utah when all this great basketball is going on, but I will be watching on ESPN for sure.
Okay, awesome. Well, I will be there covering it, because now I'm a member of the basketball media.
That's right.
Which is that's
didn't the guy running it, didn't he say when you asked for a credential, he said, "Oh, is your sister coming?"
Hey. Yes, he definitely did. He definitely asked that. So I'm glad we could at least give you a little bit of media. Actually, no, it's the other way around. You're just helping me. Thanks, little sis. But yeah, everyone, please make sure you go follow Kristen. She's super dialed in on everything when it comes to basketball, and appreciate making some time. And I'm going to stand up from the tiniest hotel room ever made and stretch out my legs, because I feel like I'm just like condensed in this little tiny shoebox. It's like your shoebox.
It is like my shoebox. Yes.
And
in Manhattan Beach. Yes.
Exactly. All right. Well, Kristen, I'm gonna end the stream, but hang on for 1 second, because it's gotta upload your feed or something like that. Okay. Thanks, everybody.